My name is Hazel Merritt. I am 67 years old, and on the evening of my birthday, while my son and his wife were rinsing dishes 20 feet away from me in my own kitchen, I heard them divide up what I own. I want to be precise about that. Not plan to ask me, not talk to me, divide. There had been 11 of us in the house that Saturday in September. My son Emmett is 43. He owns a landscaping company 2 counties over that was doing well until it started doing less well, which is something I noticed before he told me about it. His wife Sabrina is 40. She sells real estate, or she has been trying to, in a market that stopped cooperating about 18 months ago. My grandson Sawyer drove down from Columbus. He is 21, finishing his junior year at Ohio State, and he is the one in that family who asks a real question and then actually waits to hear the answer. My neighbor Dolores came because Dolores comes to everything and brings a casserole, and I have never once been unhappy about it. Sawyer's younger sister had made me a birthday cake, 3 layers, lemon, frosted generously and imprecisely, which is the best kind of birthday cake there is. I ate too much. After dinner, I sat on the living room sofa while Emmett and Sabrina said they would handle the dishes. I had a cup of coffee on the end table going cold, and I closed my eyes for what felt like a few minutes. I don't know exactly how long it was. What I know is that when I came back around, the dishwasher was running and the 2 of them were standing in the kitchen doorway talking in the low, measured way people talk when they believe no one else is listening. Sabrina's voice first. The financial POA is the piece we need before anything else moves. Once that's in place, everything else is straightforward. Emmett said something I couldn't fully catch. The house, the IRA, all of it, she said. We don't rush her. We present it as organizing things, simplifying. I lay completely still. She'll go along with it, Sabrina said. She won't push back. She never does. My coffee was cold against my leg. My eyes were closed. I kept them that way. Welcome to Brave Mom Stories. I'm Hazel, and what I'm about to tell you took 63 days from that sofa to the end of it, though the real story started 31 years before any of it. Here is what my son knows about what I did for a living. He knows I worked at a bank. He knows I handled paperwork. He knows I was there for a long time and that I was good at the job in the way people say someone is good with numbers, meaning they'd decided years ago they did not need to know more than that. Here is what I actually did. In August of 1992, I was hired as a trust administrator at First Regional Bank of Hartwell, Ohio. I sat across from people at the worst moments of their financial lives. After a spouse died, after a parent's diagnosis, after an adult child arrived, needing help in ways that had no clean ending, and I helped them protect what they had built. Living trusts, beneficiary designations, durable powers of attorney. I coordinated with estate attorneys, caught errors in wills that would have cost families everything, explained to grown children why the document they had asked their mother to sign was not what they had described it as. Over 31 years, I handled 412 client files from open to close. I know what a revocable trust does and what it cannot do. I know what a durable financial power of attorney looks like when it is designed to protect someone, and I know what it looks like when it is designed to give someone else access. The indemnification clause on page 4 is where the difference lives, in most cases. When I retired in the fall of 2021, the trust department gave me a party. Emmett came and stood by the food table and told the man next to him that his mother had been basically a filing clerk who got promoted. I heard him say it. I did not correct him. That is also part of this story, and I will come back to it. My husband Howard died the following November. We had been married 41 years. The house was paid off, the accounts were in order, and I had kept better financial records than most of the clients I ever counseled, which is either the professional habit or the grief, and I stopped being able to tell the difference between the two sometime around February. By the following spring, Emmett started asking gentle questions, how I was managing everything, whether the house felt like a lot on my own, whether I had thought about consolidating my accounts, simplifying things. He mentioned once, in passing, that Sabrina had a contact in financial planning who worked with older clients going through transitions. He said the word transition like it was neutral. I did not respond much to any of it. I said I was fine, which I was. But I also went home after the second conversation and sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote down exactly what I had, where it was, and who stood to benefit from controlling it. Paid-off house, assessed at $380,000. IRAs totaling $287,000. A checking account, no debt. Then on a second column, I wrote what each of those things looked like in the hands of someone holding a durable financial power of attorney over me. I looked at that column for a long time. The following week, I called Adrienne Cho. She has practiced estate law in our county for 22 years. I had referred clients to her for 15 of those years. I told her what I had noticed and what I was considering. She did not tell me I was overreacting. She scheduled me for the following Thursday. By June, I had a revocable living trust. My name is grantor. My name is trustee. I control it entirely, and anyone who wants to take action on those assets while I am alive and competent has no path to do so. The house transferred into the trust. The IRA beneficiary was updated, moved off Emmett directly and into the trust structure, with specific distribution instructions I had reviewed twice. I updated my will. I designated my grandson Sawyer as my healthcare proxy. I told no one. I paid Adrienne's fee out of my checking account and filed every document in a green accordion folder in my home office. Then I planted tomatoes. I had Dolores over for dinner. I drove up to Columbus twice to watch Sawyer's intramural games and did not call ahead to let anyone know I was coming. About a month before my birthday, Emmett had left his jacket at my house after Sunday dinner. I hung it by the front door. 2 days later, I moved it to the coat closet and forgot about it entirely until I was looking for a hanger and found it, and in the inside pocket was a folded piece of paper. A printed email. I would not have read it, except that my own address was at the top of it, and a person who sees their own address on a document they did not write tends to keep reading. It was from a real estate agent. It said, in the first paragraph, that she had reviewed comparable sales in our area and that a well-maintained single-family home with the square footage and lot size of the Merritt property on Clearwater Road would likely list somewhere between the mid-370s and the low 400s. It said she could walk through with the family at any mutually convenient time. It was dated 6 weeks before my birthday dinner. I put the email back in the jacket pocket. I put the jacket back in the closet. I called Adrienne the next morning. She said, Hazel, you already did everything right. They have nothing to stand on. I said, I know, I just needed to hear you say it. 3 weeks after the birthday dinner, Emmett stopped by on a Saturday with a manila folder and a bottle of wine. He talked about the weather, the landscaping season, the price of diesel. Then he set the folder on my kitchen table and said he just wanted to make sure I was protected. I opened it. 2 documents. The first was a durable financial and medical power of attorney, printed on legal paper, my name already typed on the signature line in capital letters. Hazel Merity, with a notary block underneath and the county already filled in. The second was a beneficiary change request for my IRA, directing the full balance to an entity called the Emmett and Sabrina Whitmore Family Trust. I had never been told that trust existed. I asked who had drafted the documents. Sabrina's contact, he said. Took about a week. I asked if I could review the trust agreement itself. He said that was the next step and it was being finalized. I closed the folder. I told him I would read everything and call him. He stood in my doorway with his hands in his jacket pockets and said, Don't overthink it, Mom. It's just cleanup. He said it in the same voice Howard used when he wanted me to stop asking questions about something. And I never, in 41 years, managed to explain to Howard that that voice made me want to ask more questions, not fewer. I read both documents that night in Howard's armchair by the window. The one with the cushion that has been losing its shape for the past year and a half. The lamp on my left, because the overhead light in that room has been too bright since we changed the bulbs, and I keep meaning to fix it. The POA was durable, meaning it survived any change in my cognitive state. It granted authority over bank accounts, investment accounts, and real property. There was a line authorizing the holder to manage, sell, or encumber real property on my behalf. Encumber means mortgage. There was a general indemnification clause releasing the agent from liability for decisions made in good faith. I have seen that clause used to protect someone, and I have seen it used to clean someone out. I know which version I was looking at. The beneficiary form would have moved my IRA out of the structure I had spent 18 months carefully building and placed it into a trust I had no document for, no visibility into, and no control over. I put the documents back in the folder. I did not call Emmett that night. I called Adrian the next morning and read her the relevant sections over the phone. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "They can't touch any of it. You know that." "I do know that," I told her. Then she said, "Let's write them a letter," I said. "Not yet. I wanted to see what came next." What came next arrived as a phone call from Dolores, 2 weeks after Emmett's visit. She had run into someone at the pharmacy, a woman from the congregation we both attend, who had spoken with Sabrina recently and come away concerned about me, that I had been leaving things on, that my memory had slipped some, that my judgment wasn't what it was. I have not left a stove on in 67 years. I checked twice after Dolores called. What also came next was Sawyer driving up from Columbus on a Wednesday without calling first. He helped me move a bookshelf. I had been meaning to relocate for months, and then we sat in the kitchen with soup, and he looked at the table for a long moment before he said it. "Grandma." Last week, Dad had someone from a real estate office at their house. I heard them talking through the wall. They kept saying your address. I asked him if he was all right. He said he didn't know what to do. I told him not to do anything, that this was not his to carry, and I was not going to let him be pulled into it. He held his bowl with both hands the way he used to hold a cup when he was small, and it was still too big for him. He nodded once, slowly. He is the only person in that family who has ever asked me what it actually felt like to do my job. Not just what the job was. That has mattered more than he knows. They came on a Saturday in October. My son, my daughter-in-law, and a man I had not met, a financial advisor named Lyle, somewhere in his 40s, wearing the expression of someone who had been given a summary of the situation, but not the complete picture. He brought a laptop. They had put together slides. Emmett spoke first. He talked about family planning and estate simplification and favorable timing. He said, "We," so many times that by the end of it, we had expanded to include a man who had been inside my house for 12 minutes. Lyle opened his laptop and showed me a slide with my name at the top and numbers I recognized as mine. He spoke about my own assets in the patient, measured voice of someone who has taken ownership of information that does not belong to him. I let them finish. Then I opened the drawer of the side table, next to Howard's armchair, and set 3 things on the coffee table. The first was a copy of my trust agreement, 8 pages, with Adrian's firm letterhead at the top. The second was a letter from Adrian dated that week, stating that my assets were held in a revocable living trust of which I was the sole trustee, and that no power of attorney or beneficiary change form could affect the trust structure without my express written direction as grantor. The third was a current summary of my beneficiary designations showing the exact state of every account I hold. I said, "I won't be signing the documents you brought today." Emmett said I was making this harder than it needed to be. I said I didn't think it needed to be hard at all. Sabrina said they were only trying to look after me, that the family had been worried, especially after my fall last January. I had slipped on ice outside my back door in January, bruised my shoulder, told no one except Dolores and my doctor, refused the ambulance the neighbor wanted to call, and driven myself to the clinic. My doctor had not discussed it with Sabrina. My doctor would not do that. I asked how she knew about the fall. She said Sawyer had mentioned it. His chair was empty. He was not there. I had not asked him to come because none of this was his to carry. She filled the silence. She said, "Hazel, we're not your enemies. We just want to make sure everything is handled while you're still." She stopped. I finished it for her. "While I'm still what?" She did not answer. Emmett's neck went the color it goes when he has run out of approaches. He said I had spent my whole career helping other people manage their affairs and that it was time to let somebody look after mine. He said I was being stubborn in a way that was going to cost me later. Then he said the one that cost me something. "Dad would have wanted you to be practical about this." I want to be honest with you about that sentence. It was the only moment in that entire evening when I felt anything other than calm. Not because it changed my thinking, because Howard would have said the exact opposite. Howard used to call Emmett on the first morning of every year and say, "Be straight with your mother." Emmett would say he always was. Howard would say, "Then be straighter." I kept my hands on my knees. I did not raise my voice, not once, not one word. Then I said, the only thing I had prepared ahead of time, the one sentence I had written on the back of an envelope the night before, and memorized, so I would not stumble on it. I said, I spent 31 years helping families protect what they had built. I have reviewed more than 1,000 powers of attorney, and I know what the word encumber means on page 2 and what the indemnification clause on page 4 takes away. I know what a family trust looks like when it is designed to protect the grantor and what it looks like when it is designed to work around her. I am not confused about these documents. I am declining them. Lyle closed his laptop. He had the look of a man who understood now that he had walked into a situation he had not been accurately briefed about. Emmett said, "So that's just it? You say no and that's the end of it?" I said yes, and that if anything changed, I would call him. They were gone before 6 o'clock. Here is what I need to say plainly before I finish, because it is the part I am still sitting with. My daughter-in-law was not wrong about the pattern. I have spent most of my adult life smoothing things over because the smoothing was easier than the conversation that would follow. I noticed warning signs for 2 years and told myself I was being generous, giving people the chance to do the right thing, without being confronted about it. What I was actually doing was allowing silence to function as permission. My son came to believe, somewhere along the way, that what I allowed and what he was entitled to were the same thing. That is on me just as much as it is on him. If I had said clearly, 18 months ago, what I was watching and what I was concerned about, in plain language, in one direct conversation, most of the last 8 months would likely not have happened. Emmett called 6 weeks after the Saturday meeting. His voice was quiet in a way I had not heard from him since Howard's funeral. He had received Adrian's letter. He knew where everything stood. He asked why I hadn't just told him. I said I had told him I was fine and that everything was in order. I told him that 3 times. He said that wasn't the same as telling him what I knew. I said, I know, and I am sorry I wasn't more specific earlier. Not about protecting my assets. I was right to do that, but about naming what I was seeing, earlier, before it got here. That part I could have handled differently. He was quiet for a while. Then he told me the actual number on the business debt. He told me how long they had been behind on the equipment loans. He told me that Sabrina had convinced him that my house was the only solution they had and that he had let her convince him because he wanted there to be a solution that did not require saying out loud how bad things had gotten. I did not offer him the house. I did not offer him the IRA. What I offered was to sit down with him and walk through what small business debt restructuring actually looks like in Ohio, which is something a person with 31 years in financial services can help her son understand without signing over a single thing. He said he would think about it. He came 2 weeks later, alone. We sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours, and it was the longest real conversation we had had in years. I cannot tell you we are all the way back to something good. I can tell you we are somewhere further along than we were, which is the most honest thing I know how to say about it. Sawyer still comes on Wednesdays sometimes, without calling first, and stays for dinner. Last month, he asked me to tell him about the hardest case I ever handled in 31 years. I told him. He was quiet for a moment after. Then he said, "I think you should have had that same conversation with Dad about 2 years earlier." I told him he wasn't wrong. Everything I signed is still in effect. The house is in trust. The accounts are structured correctly. The green accordion folder is in the filing cabinet in my home office, third drawer, right where I put it 14 months before any of this happened. I cook Thanksgiving in that house, and I intend to keep doing it for as long as I can manage the bird. My son comes. My daughter-in-law comes. Sawyer drives in from Columbus and finds reasons to refill my water glass all afternoon, and I let him because he is 21, and that is how he shows up when he doesn't know what else to do. Nobody brings documents to my table. I sent that in writing by certified mail and kept the return receipts in the green folder with everything else. Sabrina said I would never push back, that I didn't have it in me. She was working with an old record.